Welcome everyone. I am Neeta Aneja and I'm the founder of Trends International, which is the platform for art, culture, social and literary experiences. And with me is Shreya Aneja. She's a budding architect and she's a spoken word poetess. In fact, today I recall how we have progressed as a platform. It does not seem so long ago when we started the pandemic-induced virtual author interactive session in July 2020. Today, as we are in the process of conducting our 34th interactive session, we have had a very, very strong pedigree of authors. We have had Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, we have had Sunil Ambekarji, we have had Sanjay Chand, we have had Tavleen Singh, Akar Patel, Amish Tripathi, Sandeep Unithan, Anand Krishnan, Major General Gagandeep Bakshi, Amar Bhushan ji, Kanal Singh ji, Tim Gurong, and many, many others. But today, we are really fortunate to have a very, very illustrious, most respectful, and most erudite sir, Shri R.K. Raghavan. In fact, Mr. R.K. Raghavan, he's been a former police chief and director of the Central Bureau of Investigation and Indian diplomat. In fact, he's been witness to several high-profile cases like the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, the Bofors scam, the cricket match fixing scandal in 2000 and 2002 Gujarat riots. In fact, he led the special investigation team, which was constituted to investigate the communal riots in Gujarat. And he was appointed as the respectable Indian High Commissioner to the Republic of Cyprus in 2017. So it's absolutely a pleasure, honor, and a big delight to have you on our platform. In fact, big thanks goes to Sunil and Alka Kapoor for connecting us together through the India-Cyprus Club. And I'm really happy that both Sunil ji and Alka, they are both here on our platform today. So most welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I enjoy being here this evening. Look forward to a very interesting session.
Thank you. So to start a conversation, I must admit that I'm in total awe of your accomplishments and achievements and your erstwhile service to our great nation. And in fact, as you've quoted Mr. Huck sir, that writing memoir is a hard thing. And for one who has been so close to men, it is difficult to acquire the calm, philosophical detachment without which memoirs tend to become philosophical. And also that autobiographies should be best reflection of one's consciousness rather than deeds of valor. Sir, your book, A Road Well Traveled, is the book which you have written with so much of passion. And we are going to talk about it today. It's a beautiful autobiography, very lucidly written. It's very frank, very true account of your illustrious life. Thanks for writing and letting us know about you and your journey. In fact, you are one of the most respected police officers that has graced the Indian police scene. So, sir, to start the conversation, I really want to know what made you decide and write such a wonderful book, your autobiography, about your illustrious journey. And sir, why did you feel the need to chronicle your past in such a vivid detail?
Good evening, Neeta and Shreya, for having invited me to this wonderful evening. This is a very difficult question to answer. Why I wrote is partly ego and partly out of a desire to leave something behind in terms of history, because I have been privy to some historic events, especially the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi. I was just present there at Sri that fateful evening. I would normally have been killed, but God willed it otherwise. And so I thought I should give a first-hand account. There are so many theories, some true, some false. So I thought I should leave something behind. And I've had so many other events which have shaken the country, like the Bofors scandal, then the match fixing one, and back up in the, then in the States, the murder of a film actress called Shobha, and initially it was thought to be a murder, but ultimately we held it out to be a suicide, and not many were happy at the verdict we gave. So I thought my grandchildren who live in London, Akila Nikhil, and my son Rajesh, and my daughter Sona, all of them should be aware of what I was, because the huge gap in age between all of us. So if I leave without jotting down some notes and who I was, what were my impulses, and how I viewed India, how I viewed first my family, the country, and the rest of the world. It's a unilateral decision. I sweated it out for nearly 5 years. I'm happy I'm able to produce something which posterity will speak about.
I think, sir, it was a great decision to write the memoir because of you, we are being aware of so many facts that we did not know about these cases and what it goes behind the scenes and what happens. So I wanted to ask you that, what were some of the challenges that you faced while writing the memoir? Did you feel apprehensive about probably talking about your co-workers or maybe breaching official propriety? What were the challenges you faced?
Now, the point is, yes, one has to be very careful because we don't want to tread on anybody's pawns. You have to be careful not to offend this Official Secrets Act. I've been as structured as possible. I have a fairly good memory, which helped me. Not many notes. I don't have any, because when I left the service in 2001, 20 years after I left the service, and when I was about 75, 76, I wrote down all this. So I didn't have any notes. Occasionally I used to call some of my colleagues, senior to me or junior to me, to check on some facts. Otherwise, my memory has helped me. And on the internet, I was able to get down to some dates and some names. Otherwise, I'm happy. I'm proud to say that this is an effort solely by myself.
And so I'm sure it must have been challenging. You were the chief of SIT investigating Gujarat riots in 2002. And handling such a controversial case and the investigation. Would you like to share some memories specifically with respect to that case that you must have from back then?
Yeah, that is the most controversial investigation I undertook. I didn't ask for it, just a pleasant surprise. And the Supreme Court judge called me, Raghavan, we want you to do this, don't say no. That was the order he gave me, and I said, I can't defy the Supreme Court, which I revere. And they asked me to do this. It is absolutely, I don't know, it's straight from the heavens that this invitation came. And I readily accepted it. I didn't blink. I said, okay, I'll take it up. Gujarat is a new territory. And I stepped on Gujarat soil only once or twice on my way to Mount Abu, where I was trained. So even that, I used to connect to Ahmedabad, from Ahmedabad to Mount Abu. So that is the only contact I ever had with Gujarat until I took over this investigation. Would you believe I spent 8 years on this job, 2008 to 2016. I had to spend long spells in Ahmedabad, then come home, Chennai, go back. And on the whole, it was a very memorable experience. I enjoyed every minute of it. As I said, my solace was that the entire world was behind me, except a few individuals who had a very high stake. They wanted a conclusion on a particular line. I refused to toe that line. I did what conscience dictated me, what facts. And I had a wonderful team. Some of them from Gujarat, most of them from outside. But for that team, I wouldn't have done half of what I did. Yes, it was a difficult investigation. Pressures were there. But I must admit that nobody ever approached me to do this or that. I can be very honest to myself. I believe in the Almighty. I believe in truth. So if anybody has to be blamed for speaking the truth, it's I who has to be blamed. So Nobody came and said, no, you are not storing our life. Yes, the then government in Delhi was interested in a conclusion of their own desire, but I refused to do it. I said, I'll go on facts. We were given 9 cases, of which 7 ended in conviction. Only 1 failed because of absolute lack of evidence, and 1 is still pending in court. So I did what I had to on the basis of facts. And on a personal note, Ahmedabad, I used to stay on the police mess, a modest place, and no South Indian food. It was only chapati and this. I braved it. And and near the mess, there was a Hanuman temple. So I used to go every other day. It was inside the cantonment. So Lord Hanuman gave me a lot of courage to do what I wanted to do on the basis of facts, so that nobody threatened me. There was like, I will be untrue to say that somebody threatened me, but I knew that everybody is watching, and one or two of them brought allegations on me, saying I was so and so's man, but I ignored it, and I complained to the Supreme Court in that chamber, and they said, Mr. Raghavan, you're doing a good job. Carry on gallantly. Whatever protection you want, we will give it to you. You could have got greater assurance from as eminent a body as the Supreme Court of India. So I was able to do this. I had to work with the judiciary. I had to work with the prosecution. So I'm happy. I did what conscience dictated me, what the facts dictated me. So not many may have been happy with what I did, what conclusion I came to. So that's interesting. I mean, looking back, I consider it as the most important investigation I ever did.
I think specifically hearing this about this incident and your investigation regarding this important case is, I think, reason enough for everyone to go back and buy a book and read it, because there are some very interesting insights. So, sir, you've been a diplomat, a bureaucrat, an IPS officer, Interpol and CBI head. So, doing so many different roles all throughout life. What has been the most memorable for you, and why?
I mean, it'll be invidious to pick one particular aspect. CBI was a windfall for me. I was not in the race because it's a job which, at any point of time, about 100 officers vying, and I was nowhere in the race in the sense I was the senior most in the country. The mantle should have fallen on me right royally. But certain forces worked against me at that time. I was an orphan, political orphan, and because you need to be politically known and you have to be an all India figure, but I wasn't any of these. I had a very modest background in the state police, then in the Intelligence Bureau and Vigilance Directorate. So I spent 6 years in the Vigilance Directorate of Tamil Nadu. One of the cases here which I handled, unfortunately or fortunately, was that of Shreya Aneja. I had to investigate her. She appointed me earlier to this job. At a point of time, I had to investigate her. So that was that gave me a lot of publicity. People knew that I'm bold and I would go according to law. Here again, I was assisted by a wonderful team led by a legal advisor by name Mr. Venkataraman and so many others. And so Jayalalitha's investigation brought me some publicity. But the job which should have gone to me straight away, there were some moments of anxiety, and about 15, 20 people were gunning for the job and gunning for me so that I didn't get it. But ultimately, Mr. Vajpayee chose me. I had not known the man. I never seen him. Except only after I took over, I had to make a courtesy call. And so I was a total unknown factor. So a lot of people thought I had pulled wires to become director. Nothing can be further from the truth. Nothing can be more ridiculous. So I made it. And that is the one thing which changed my career right through. Becoming director of CBI gave me a high-profile presence in the country, and that everything. I think Supreme Court picked me up for the SIT job only because of my record in the CBI for impartiality. So I think CBI job made all the difference. I enjoyed every minute of it. Initially, I was scared. How could I do state in the state? In the state, I was the Director General of Vigilance. I spent 6 years. So when I became as appointed director, I had my own apprehensions whether I would fill the bill. Fortunately, this job sat lightly on my shoulders, and I may not have been an outstanding director. I don't know what you mean, but there are some people who said, no, he didn't do anything outstanding. I didn't want to do anything. Once I mentioned that, I don't know whether you know the cricketer called Shri, who used to come, spend 15 minutes, hit the ball all over the stadium. So a good friend of mine. So I said, I don't want to be a Shri. Come to the crease and hit do whatever I wanted. He used to get out very often within 15 minutes. Gavaskar was his opening pair. So Gavaskar used to say, yes, Srikanth, we have to give that bakri before we can proceed further. So like that. So I wanted to be steady. I want to be slow and steady is what happened. And I enjoyed CBI and state vigilance also 6 years. Then IB, I spent 15 years in the IB. Normally, I would have ended up as a director IB, but my decision to go to the US, that was my dream to go to the US and study. My son was a student there. So I joined him in the rank of a student when he was there. So I wanted to go to the US, so I had to necessarily leave the IB. Many officers in the IB, senior officers were fond of me. They never forgave me for this unilateral arbitrary decision which I took. But in hindsight, I should say, I enjoyed every minute of my stay in the US. A unique instance of father and son studying at the university at the same time, living it in, then my wife also joined me. So it was a wonderful time. That led to Harvard Law School, Rutgers, and then I was a member of the advisory board of the Cambridge University's School of Criminal Justice. So I had a very good innings. I don't know whether I deserved all that, but I have no regrets in life. That is the one reason.
I think overall you have had a very illustrious career, sir. And specifically, as you were mentioning, that you've handled so many high-profile cases, and of course, with high-profile cases, there comes a lot of secrets and a lot of things that you cannot disclose. So, how have you dealt with these cases in your book? How much have you been able to talk about?
The point is, I wrote about Rajiv Gandhi assassination. I didn't have to hide any facts. It was a very straightforward thing. So I wrote down, because my editor advised me that I should begin. That will be a good beginning to the book. So I went by his advice. Normally, I would, if I had stuck to chronology, this should have come much later. But this, I thought, they told me, the editorial team, you better begin with this so that it evokes some interest in this. Then I stuck to chronology, where I was born and where I was educated and things like that. Then my life in the district. The IPS officers, most important period is the early years when he spends time in the district, small towns, where you learn the work. And I was in a place called, initially I was stayed in Tanjavur, lovely place, and then Nagapatnam, the coastal town. Then I was pulled out to Delhi. I mean, one fine morning, I got a message from the Director General's office. You have been selected to go to the IB. And the IB used to have a year marking scheme, whereby anybody who was in the top rank was seconded permanently to the IB. I got a message from Nagapatnam. I went to Delhi. It's a far cry. I was a little uncertain to start with, but then it offered a very good career. So I went to Delhi, the IB. A wonderful organization, I can tell you. I mean, given a chance, I would go back to IB and work. It's such a friendly atmosphere, brilliant officers, no frills. Yeah, they focus only on work. So I had tremendous variety. Coming back, I went into Vigilance Director, which investigates graft. Graft is very much in the news after what happened in Mumbai, you know all that. So I was given that job, and Jayalalitha chose me. Probably she wrote it later because I had to investigate her. And on the whole, as I said, it is a very rich career. Not that it, honors came to me unsolicited. So the Almighty was very kind. That's about all.
And so I think there's something I wanted to ask you, and I think you would be the absolute right person to ask. You've been, of course, working for our country since the starting of your career, and you've handled multiple cases, brought justice to a lot of people. And I wanted to ask you about your opinion about, the term nationalist and anti-nationalist, because these terms are being very infamously used nowadays.
Yes. I don't approve of other anti-nationalists. I feel all of us are Indians. We are proud to be Indians. When you go abroad, I mean, I was in Cyprus as India's representative. Our stocks have gone up so much. I've been traveling abroad since 1974, and 45 years. I never have seen such goodwill for India and such regard for India. So we are proud to be Indians. So I suppose this is true of every person who's born in this country. Easy to brand somebody as anti-nationalist. I don't agree with it. I will not do it myself. I detest anybody calling somebody anti-national. I can't accept one or two Quislings who work for money against our country, a very small number. All the others, I think they have the interest of the country in their hearts, and whatever they do, they measure it against that standard of nationalism, promoting India within the country and outside, eradicating poverty. These are all issues, causes which are dear to us. I don't think you can locate a single Indian who will give up this nationalist outlook, nationalist character. So I will hesitate 1,000 times before branding somebody anti-nationalist.
I agree with you, sir, that these terms come from a very black place in comparison, and should overall just be ignored. And so you mentioned about your time in Cyprus, and you've written very fondly in your book about your stay in Cyprus as Indian High Commissioner. How do you feel when you look back at your stint as a diplomat?
Yeah, wonderful time. Because Cyprus, first of all, it was fairly close to UK, where my son lived, my only child. So I was delighted that I was being posted to a place from where I could go across to meet my son, or he could come. I mean, ultimately, the family comes first, and at such an age, and so I'm very fond of my grandchildren. So that was my first reaction, Cyprus. And then I heard so much about Cyprus. Again, I had passed through, my only contact with Cyprus earlier was when I passed through Larnaca, the biggest airport. That was way back in 2000 when I was going to Greece for the Interpol General Assembly session. So I had naturally changed aircraft. It was well past midnight, and somebody from the Indian High Commission came and received me and put me in the other airlines. So, except that, I didn't have anything to do with Cyprus. I knew it was an exotic country, friendly people, excellent weather, beautiful beaches. Of course, I don't swim, but I can enjoy I come from Chennai, which has a beautiful beach. So that way it vibed with me that I'm going to a place which has beautiful beaches and historic place, and people are good, excellent people. We're fond of India. The ties between India and Cyprus are unbelievably good. It has been growing. So I was happy that I could contribute a little towards strengthening relations between India and Cyprus. Even after retirement, my friend Sunil Kapoor, who was a big shot in Nicosia, the two of us conspired to found an Indo-Cyprus Friendship Committee. So this holds a meeting every month, which again for this relationship with India and Cyprus. So Cyprus, very friendly people. English is very well understood. And I had access to the president of Cyprus, a wonderful person, the foreign minister. People are so fond of India. The Indian food is their ambassador. Wherever you go, whichever part of the world, everybody is so fond of the Indian food. So I could invite people and to come home or to an Indian restaurant and give them food. So I'm happy that I had this spell. Again, God's grace. I spent 2 years in Cyprus. I wish I could have spent a little longer, but that was the prescribed tenure. And a lot of Greek cypriots to come to my office and discuss how we could take forward the relationship with the two countries. So I think I would, and then you should visit Cyprus to enjoy the beaches, the Greek food. The food in Cyprus is exotic, even for a vegetarian. It is amazing. I mean, of course, there is some seafood, but vegetarian food in Cyprus is the ultimate cuisine. And I would strongly recommend every Indian, given a chance to. It's not very far. You go to Dubai. From Dubai, it's a 4-hour flight, 3.5 hours flight, and then you are in Cyprus.
No doubt.
My only regret was that Cyprus, I had visions of building a temple in Cyprus. Somehow I didn't have the time to finish that project.
I can understand your feelings because you've devoted one full chapter in the book on Cyprus, and it's beautifully written. In fact, people who've joined late, I must say, this is the book that we've been talking about. It's a wonderful autobiography of our great, illustrious son of India, Mr. R.K. Raghavan. So I cannot resist asking you one question because you've been the head of CBI. So how do you rate CBI in terms of its parallel organization in the world?
Parallel organization elsewhere in the world?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very difficult to. I know we always compare ourselves with the FBI. FBI is a hoary and iconic organization. We had wonderful relations with the FBI. One of its former directors, who was the director when I was heading the CBI here, Mr. Shri, a wonderful friend of India. And I used to touch him for whatever information we had, we needed. And he played host to me in the US, and I played host to him in India. So FBI is a model we should emulate. UK has its own similar agency, but I would look up to FBI as a model. It's large, it is highly professional, and it believes in excellent relations with investigative agencies all over the world. And I was there, this hijacking of IC 814 that happened. And so the FBI invoked its jurisdiction because one of the passengers was an American national. We are split. We are stuck with how to invoke the FBI. Then we found a way because one of the passengers was an American. So Mr. Louis Free invoked that provision, and he gave us a lot of assistance. And I'm very proud to say that it is in my time I persuaded the Prime Minister, Mr. Vajpayee, to permit FBI to operate from India. So as a result, this was hanging for quite some time. This I can pride myself as one of my major achievements. The FBI president, they call legal attaché, legatee. So 2 officers are posted in the Indian embassy, US embassy in India. And first time, it's a path-breaking event. And Mr. Vajpayee was very magnanimous when I told him, sir, we should have, if you want the US to come to help us in terms of, so that's one thing I like. FBI is a model, and I'm sure they gave us a lot of assistance to run courses in cybercrime and etc. And I'm happy that this happened.
So your book is very important as it's a personal tale of a public leader who had to protect the lives of people in the world's largest democracy. Your book is not self-indulgent. It is a fact-finding book for people who would like to delve into some of the most important incidents which have affected the modern India. So one last question from my side before I move on to our very popular interactive round is, so how do you feel when you reflect back on your career? And what makes you feel the most proudest? Which moment made you feel really proud?
No, as I said, I was lucky. I got into the IPS in the first attempt. I stood first in the country. Again, luck. And
I wouldn't say that. You're very talented.
I never looked back, and lucky I didn't make it to the Foreign Service or the IAS, although that time the IPS was considered infra-dig. The IAS and IPS were at the, in Mount Everest types. So I'm happy I didn't make it. I did try. So and then from then I never looked back. I'm happy that I chose to be in the IPS. It gives you a lot of self-confidence, and if you are public service-minded, want to help poor people, that's the best service you can ever go to. That's what I feel. I think a lot of people with idealism are coming into the IPS. Some brilliant people, much more brilliant than I was, they've come, and IPS offers a very good career. And now it is the so-called disparity between the IAS and IPS in terms of emoluments and all that, mostly done away with. Yes, there's still slight disparity, but then IPS, I mean, I think a lot of people who are not very bureaucratic, they feel that IPS is superior to the IAS. I shouldn't use this word, but then they come and tell me the IPS provides an avenue for rendering service to the community. The bull, you've got the power to neutralize any social bullies, and I don't think you'll get in any other service. And that's it. That's what I'm very proud about. And then working for this, heading the CBI, it's not an easy job. It's again, I called myself an accidental director CBI. I borrowed the term accidental prime minister from Vinay Sitapati. I think it's somebody else. I'm so sorry. That is, so I was an accidental till last minute. I wasn't very sure that I'm going to. So that again is a memorable event. So what I did, as soon as I heard the news, would you believe it? May appear juvenile. My mother was there. I just went and hugged her, saying I'm very proud that I've become director. She didn't understand for a minute. She's not all that educated, but I went and hugged her. As I told, I said in a book, I hugged her twice. Once when I became director of CBI. Second was a sad occasion when I had to convey to her my father's demise. So I mean, if you find, I adored my parents, my family, and my son. So you have to have family affection for the family, and I had in full measure. Although I'm in the exterior, I'm the angriest of men. I can break into a temper at the drop of a hat. But there is a saying in Tamil that those who are short-tempered are the characters who have virtues in them. So CBI job, the landmark, and then meeting the Prime Minister. I mean, can you believe? I dealt with Mrs. Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi from a distance. I was never a top man to rub shoulders with them. Although once in Delhi, when I was attending a reception in the Taj Palace, I think, suddenly I found somebody standing by my side. It was Mrs. Gandhi. I couldn't believe. With the security, in those days, security was before 1984 when Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated. I found that she was standing next to me. I was thrilled. That is so beautiful, unbelievably pretty, charming, with a golden smile. Rajiv Gandhi had that. I don't know if I mentioned, when Rajiv Gandhi walked into President Road that night, I saw him for a couple of, probably less than a minute. He was radiant. You can't get such a person. I'd met him several times earlier, but that evening. So the same kind of radiant smile Mrs. Gandhi had as son Rajiv Gandhi. I've always mentioned that Rajiv Gandhi didn't deserve that pain. So these are important. And then Mr. Vajpayee, wonderful meeting him. First time I was led into his room to be introduced as the director of the CBI. He had not known me. So I sat with him. Nobody else. This is one-to-one. How many people can get this privilege of talking to the Prime Minister of the largest democracy? I used to do it every other day. And then he was so charming, he will not ask any question. I still remember my last meeting with him when my wife was with me. I took the liberty of asking his staff, can I bring my wife? She wants to see him. So he was more than delighted. And my wife appeared, the two of us appeared. He concentrated on my wife. He said, where were you hiding yourself all these days? You never came and met me. So that is the charm of that man, genuine. So, I don't think. So I used to spend time with him, briefing him. He will never cross you. He will just listen to you. And one of the most momentous moments was when he asked me to go ahead with the Bofors investigation. And when I filed a charge, I was the first to file a charge sheet in Bofors case. I was in the car, I was driving, my driver was driving. So then a call came through. Then I was told the Prime Minister was in their line. Then he spoke to me for 1 minute, or less than a minute. He merely said, go ahead. I knew what go ahead meant. So my heart left with joy because I was waiting for his nod. I did not have to wait for his approval, but still such a momentous decision, charge sheeting, Rajiv Gandhi, although he was dead, and a few others, the most momentous of cases. I didn't want to do it myself. I could have done. I had the courage, I had the authority, I had the facts. But still, in a democracy, this is what I want to tell young IPS officers. You have the authority given by law. But if you do run amok, do whatever you want just because law gives you power, you are doing the greatest disservice to your service, to the country, and to the whole fraternity of the IPS. So I got his nod. That is a momentous occasion. I remember it very well. I think I mentioned it in my book also. This is the so these are things that give you great joy. And said, okay, I have to call it a day. Now I called a day. I turned 80 a few days ago. I still can't believe I'm 80 years young. So I thought I am. It's very difficult to reconcile yourself with the march of time. Here am I. I'm talking to you, and you are good enough to call me and quiz me on a variety of things. Very, very gentle quizzing. I'm happy with it, and thank you very much for that.
I really cannot tell you how emotional it feels to share your memories, that you are there and sharing. Many of us would have to live our life many times over, that you have, done it in your single life. So many things that you've done. It's so emotional to share your memories. We're really privileged to have you today, sir. I want to go on to my interactive round because there are some people who really want to talk to you directly. And one of the very special guests today who's made this session possible is Mr. Sunil Kapoor. In fact, he's you know him very well. He's a marine engineer and he's worked since 1990. He was in charge of opening the Cyprus office, and he moved into Cyprus in 2007. And he and his wife, they've had a personal relationship with you, sir. And I think they're very close to you and your wife, Shantiji. So, Sunil, here you are.
Good evening, sir.
Good
nice
evening.
Listening to you today.
Good evening, Sunil. Thank you for putting me on to your cousin, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. Sunil is a great friend of mine, and the only thing he didn't give me a job in Cyprus, so that I could have stayed on. But he said, you better go back home, come back later.
So there is one thing which I would like to ask, and we did not discuss, your interest in cricket. And I also saw that there is a picture you have posted where you are interviewing with Kapil Dev.
Yeah.
And the question is whether it was done in 70s or 80s.
Yeah. I thought of 70s, then we checked. One of my friends who knows him very well, he checked with him, then he sent a message, no, not 70s, it's 80s. Because I had such a long tryst with cricket, long association with cricket. I get confused because the first test match I saw was in 1949-50. We were not born that time. So since then I've been watching cricket, playing cricket. So I get a little confused with dates. My son is great. He remembers all these dates and the plays. So here I committed a mistake, but Kapil was good enough to tell me, no, sir, it is not 1970s, it is 1980s.
And there was another thing which we did not discuss, was that when you were investigating the cricket, that case, was there actually some players who were involved in this money racket, or was directly, and who were these famous cricketers? We just somehow forgot about that.
No, I think I clearly mentioned, I have no qualms about mentioning them. Some of them, their career came, of course, chief of them was Asruddin, unfortunate. One of the nicest of gentlemen, one of the nicest of persons was Muhammad Asruddin, one of the most gifted cricketers. Unfortunately, he fell a prey to local, and this is what happened. Then there are 2 or 3 others, Ajay Jadeja, Manoj Prabhakar, and go on naming names. But that doesn't help. But the point is, it was slightly exaggerated. The impact of money on the outcome. I can say with reasonable assurance that this kind of activity did not influence the course of a match. Yes, some of the bookies, they got information, inside information like who is going to constitute the 11, who is going to. So I think there was kind of exaggeration about match fixing, information on the nature of the pitch, information on who is going to constitute the 11, what the weather would be. So these are aspects of fringe information which did not affect the outcome of a match. So I don't think many people know that. They exaggerate the importance of match fixing, but it was there, dishonesty. You can't condone such behavior. So I think it is a momentous investigation. Mind you, this is the first time the CBI put up its report on the website. Whatever it did, it was a very spot. It's a kind of a spot decision I took when I was attending the Interpol conference in Cyprus, in Greece. So a call came through from my assistant, deputy director. Sir, if there's a lot of demand that our report to the government should be uploaded on the website. I said, okay. First time I was doing it, I took great risk, but it was welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. Neeta, great, sir, talking to you, and we'll catch up again.
Thank you.
Now we have Mr. Jagan Baman. He's an IT and cyber security professional with 35 years of experience in the industry. He's also, interacted with you during ISCA seminar circuit. Yes, Mr. Jagan.
Good evening, Raghavan ji. Namaskaram.
Good evening.
Namaskaram, sir. I have interacted with you. Of course, you won't know me. It is in many ISACA seminars. Where you have delivered keynote lectures. My question to you is, sir, is probably kind of rhetoric question. Maybe it will sound like, but then I would like the senior most and the most inspirational officer like you to say. There is a notion that CBI is a caged bird. I mean, I know it's an off-toss question, a caged tiger maybe. But what in your view, will make, rather I'm not asking you whether it is a caged bird or anything, and not a political one, but what is the best way to make CBI a premier, independent, fearless institution? Should they report to the president? Should they report to the Chief Justice? What would you recommend as a very senior most officer? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, very interesting question. The point is, if an individual who hates the CBI or who works for the CBI, is himself not straight, he has his own agenda, then nothing will work. Making him appointed by the Prime Minister or by the God Almighty, I don't think he will. If he is fearless, if he is straightforward, if he doesn't have his own agenda, then only any system will work. Yes, they have done a lot to insulate the CBI, but you must remember, when you accuse the CBI of being a caged parrot, it's an expression used by one of the judges, and it is a very catchy phrase. I mean, everybody has held on to it. And possibly the comparison is not very much of the reality. The point is, it's basically a police organization. It depends on the government for all its infrastructure. But the point is, if it's a caged bird, that is, it's subservient to the government, can you tell me how many cases in which the government is interested in shaping the investigation or interested in guiding investigation? Every year, the CBI registers about 1,000 cases. Of these, if you go down to brass tacks, you ask the current director, there are about 10 cases, less than 10, in which the government has a kind of a stake. Government is interested that a particular outcome should fall out from the investigation. So these 10 cases are probably marginal cases. I don't think that any government worth its salt will tell you what to do and what not to do. If there is, I think the best of arrangements, you cannot insulate any investigating agencies totally free from executive direction, executive caprice. This has happened in the US, this happens in UK, and many other countries. So let us not aim at the moon. Let us make the CBI transparent, hardworking, and focus on producing results which are credible. Yeah, this charge of political interference, I think is slightly, it is there. It should be, it will be there. Whichever government is in power, no party is the paragon of virtues. Every party will try to misuse the CBI or try to interfere. I won't say misuse, try to interfere with a few investigations. Out of 1,000 cases which CBI registers every year, probably about less than 10 in which the stakes are high, in which the government would like the director CBI to guide the investigation in a particular manner. But we must remember, every case will ultimately have to go to the court. And if the director takes a tendentiously false line, his leg will be on his face, he will be hauled up at the court. Yeah, here and there, possibly some twists and turns, he may help the government. But ultimately, he can't let off an accused person. He can't indict an innocent person. There's slight exaggeration. So I still feel CBI is a very good organization. It depends on the leader. The leader is poor, leader himself is dishonest. There are at least 2 instances of directors of the CBI who are suspected of having intelligent dishonesty. Barring these 2 others are all flawless. They may not be brilliant. I personally feel that you don't need brilliance to head the CBI. You need integrity, you need honesty, you need a straightforward approach to investigation. You must be knowledgeable. You must be very knowledgeable. You can't waste your time. You must study, you must plod, and then only you can guide investigation.
Thank you, sir. Namaskaram. Thank you.
Namaskaram.
I'll certainly buy your book and read it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a question from Mrs. Vishali Sood, and she's referred to the fact that you've mentioned Rajiv Gandhi's unfortunate assassination in the book. You know, your presence near Rajiv Gandhi unfortunate assassination has been much talked about by you. So does the incident still gives you goosebumps?
I mean, again, very difficult to describe. First of all, it came as a shock, and the whole. First, I had to pick up the remains of the revered leader myself. Others, one other leader wanted to take the dubious distinction of having picked up everybody, but I did it. I had tremendous courage. I'm a God-given courage. I don't say that I am very God-given courage to do this, and sat right through the night with 14 dead bodies around me. I didn't have any help. Unfortunately, some policemen ran away. Some policemen were admitted to hospital. I didn't have much of an assistance. All this gave me tremendous courage. The point is, my sitting there helped to protect the scene of crime. We were able to locate the camera, which gave interesting leads. And then you must remember that that night, that was 1991. There are no cell telephones, anything else of that kind. And my wife and son did not know whether I was alive or dead. They merely knew that many policemen had been killed at the incident. I couldn't communicate with them. I could jolly well have sent a message, but I thought it was a highly selfish act. I want to make this very clear. I'm not making up this. I didn't want to tell my wife and son I was alive, because so many were killed, and most of it, first of all, the most loved leader was killed. So I was there myself, and my wife and son couldn't get any information. You remember, mind you, remember that I was an IGP. Then there was no additional DG. It was just about immediately under the DGP. So nobody had given any information to my son and my wife. They're desperately trying to find out what happened to me. So so only till next morning, when I got a chance, I conveyed the news to my wife. Then she was relieved. So this is the kind of situation. So I've learned several things from the assassination. Yeah. And then I was being assaulted with the crowd. Twice I was assaulted. There was an attempt made on me. Fortunately, they didn't have any weapon. I too didn't have. It's a foolish thing to have gone to the meeting without any weapon. I was not the regular charge of the meeting. I went as a supernumerary. They just wanted me to handle it because the election time they needed lots of officers. So I went without. So first attempt was made to assault me. I warded them off with my hand. I don't know how I picked up courage. Then at that time, Mr. Mupanar, the late Congress president, he was a good friend of mine. He helped me to solve the situation. Then after all the people left, after Mr. Gandhi's body was removed, I was again left alone. I could jolly well have got into the ambulance which took the body to the general hospital in Chennai. I said, that thought never crossed me. I knew I had to be at the scene, protecting the scene of crime, so that scientific investigation will go. This I'm not making up again. This is what I would like to tell young officers, that you should stick to your post. Never go out of your post. Remain there, even if there's a threat to your life. I did this probably because of some professionalism I acquired during the years I was just in 49, and I had spent about, I'll tell you, 18 years of service. I had only 18 years of service. Interestingly, ironically, I just come back from the US after my studies, got into the action. And so the lessons from Mr. Gandhi's assassination is that officers should do their duty. They should handle it. I always used to believe you should be in the forefront. If you don't do that, your men will not do what they require.
And it was, whenever we think about it, we still get, as I mentioned, a lot of goosebumps, and it was really, and you being in the middle of it all, just meters away from where it happened, where late Rajiv Gandhi.
Most interesting thing was that I had probably some injury on my right eye, and I couldn't see anything for the first 2 or 3 months. The surgeons were about to give me a laser shot, then they decided against it. Mere steroids did the trick, then I regained my eyesight in the right eye. So I had to manage with one eye. I don't know, it's sheer trauma. This one instance where I believe there is not direct splinter or anything, it was just trauma. And I don't know how I was so cool. And afterwards, 3 months, I was assisting the investigation. And the one godsend thing happened was the governor of the state, Mr. Bhishma Narayan Singh, whom I had never met. I can be very honest about it. I went the next day after the incident to report. The state was in the president's rule, and governor was the supreme authority. I thought I owed a duty to explain to him what exactly happened, because he was being bullied, and any other governor would have acted against me, saying that he failed in your duty. This is a man whom I had never met. He received me, listened to me patiently. Then he went to town saying there is no question of any action against the IGP. He was at the spot, organized relief, and protect the scene. So he was at the spot. That speaks volumes for his courage and his sense of duty. If there was anybody else governor, I would have been placed under suspension and then humiliated. But this did not happen. This again, the Almighty saved.
It's up to you, sir, and your service to nation, selfless service to nation. So we have Yuvraj Dhingra now. He's a grade 12th student from DPS Greater Faridabad, and he wants to aspires to be a civil.
All right. So, sir, first of all, use respect to you and a heartfelt tribute and gratitude for all your hard work and sacrifices that you have made for the nation. So the question is related to the fact that you've seen a country develop and you've been an eminent part in its developmental process. You have seen the then India and the now India. So you've been already instilled with that feeling of belongingness that you resonate yourself when you hear the word India. But nowadays, teenagers, they take the country for granted and they tend to reflect upon the country and its diverse and integrated experience only via social media. So what do you think is the reason behind this lost belongingness in the teenagers? And now that thing can be developed in the teens who are already conflated with the political opinions and the political legacy of the nation.
I think this is 20 years since I retired, and I joined the service in 1963, almost a century ago. So the point is, the milieu in which I was brought up was so different, and life was so different, very stereotyped, but very really meaningful. We had no distractions. We didn't have such volley of information. We never were burdened with all kinds of theories. We concentrated on our studies. We had no distractions like TV, cell telephone, all that. So that is a different era. For me to compare that era with the present one, very, very unfair. Yes, times have changed, and you are subject to the impact of the media, and you have a world which is, the whole world belongs to you. We thought it was only India which mattered, never knew what happened. I mean, I didn't get the chance to go to the US, but I very much wanted to go to the US. I didn't have the resources. I stuck on to the country and then served. And so present day, tremendous opportunities, exposure through the TV and through the computer is enormous. So the present generation is subjected to information which is maddeningly varied. So you're subject to so many influences, and you would like to, because young people would like to do well in life, and be exposed to influences all over the world, and exciting opportunities. We didn't have such opportunities, so our responses to the national cause were so different from what was. I don't blame the present youth. I mean, I don't say they're dishonest or anti-national, but they are only thing. They want to do well in life. They want to enjoy life in a positive manner. And I can't expect you to be saints like we were, because we had no movies, no TV, and all. So it will be unfair for me to lambast the present generation. So it's all, nature takes its own course, but it's essential that senior people, leaders and elders should play their role and tell children what exactly they should react, how exactly they should react to modern events. Concentrate on your studies, help poor people. Don't think all the time only of yourself. Try to help as many, because you belong to 1% of India's population. 99% are worse off than you. What is your role? Forget about the fact that you're India and you have to help fellow Indians. But then they are human beings. So is it not your duty to help them? So this is, I think, if given the right inputs, and the present generation will do even better than what we did in terms of love for the country, love for our fellow Indians.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Raj. And sir, this was our last question. And I really thank you, sir, for taking out such a valuable time. It is, in fact, one of the most august moments having you on our platform today. There is one Mr. Liaquat to say. He wants to wish you, I think.
Yeah, please allow him to speak. He was my assistant. One of the most wonderful persons. Yeah.
Sir, good evening, sir. Audio. Sir, good evening, sir.
Please, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Sir, I'm very proud to say that I work under you, sir. I come from the lower rank, but I got a chance to work under you. I never forget, sir. It is my lifetime achievement, sir. My wishes to Madam and Raghavan, all, sir.
But tell me frankly, how was it to work for me? What kind of a boss I was?
Sir, I work under most of the IPS officers, sir. You are one of the best, straightforward, honest officers, sir. I'm proud to say that I'm very lucky to work at you, sir.
You know what I wrote about you in my book?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you are.
Sir, I must point out, sir, Madam, sir, in the book, the sir has written a paragraph about me. Those who have read the book, actually, they were very pleased to say like this. So it is my privilege, sir. It is my privilege because sir has given me a paragraph in his book. It is a fortune for me, sir.
Thank you. Wish you and your family all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Liaquat, for coming in. And this is such a beautiful moment for us. Thank you, Mr. Raghavan, sir. Great to have you. And we would really wish to have you again whenever we meet personally. Like to invite you once again in future. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
I must thank you for the opportunity given to express myself. I look forward to seeing you in person, probably in Delhi sometime. Thank you very much.
That will be. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for joining in. Thank you, Mr. Sunil and Alka, once again for making it happen. And everyone, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Trends Events. You'll find a lot of author interactions there. And thank you, everyone.